Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our journey with Ikat. And at today's webinar is our first lecture specifically on Indian Ikat. I personally connected with Indian Textiles in 2012 when I was awarded a fellowship from Asian Cultural Council in New York. During the fellowship, I had the privilege to do a study visit in Japan, Laos, Cambodia, and in India. In India, I met several textile groups, cooperatives, and also scholars in New Delhi and in Chennai. It was a great opportunity to see Indian textile be preserved and developed, which should be a learning experience for other countries in preserving traditional textiles. At the CCD-NL, the first 5-year focus has been on the preservation of traditional weaving technique of Ikat. We started with Indonesia and then Japan, and today we begin with India. Besides preserving the art of Ikat, the CCD-NL will also focus on the sustainable development of Ikat for culture and economy, and in particular how Ikat artisans can benefit from their crafts economically and socially for their sustainable livelihoods. As a Dutch foundation, we also like to play our role in connecting the countries that have strong history with Ikat in the past, for today and for the future, and how Ikat could inspire Dutch design and creative industry for the countries involved in. We are building a platform to accommodate the effort established by CCD-NL in July this year, aiming to connect artisans, to share and to learn from one another and to market their products. Our main speakers in today's webinar is Ms. Pankaja Sethi, a textile designer, artist, and researcher from Odisha, India, featuring the Nuapatna Weaving Group. And our guest speaker is Jolijn Fiddelaers, a Dutch textile designer who has a lengthy experience working with Indian textiles. So without any further ado, I would like to invite you all to enjoy the webinar today. Thank you, dank u wel, and dhanyavad.
Hello and Namaskar. I'm Pankaja Sethi. I'm a textile designer, practicing textile artist and a researcher based out of Bhubaneswar in state Odisha, located in the eastern part of India. I studied textile design and development at National Institute of Fashion Technology and Social Anthropology at SOAS, University of London. After graduating from textiles, I started working in Delhi in the sector of home linens, primarily creating home products for European and American market. After some time, the factory-based work didn't inspire me anymore. So I decided to change my work environment. I wanted to work with local communities and local craft. I started traveling to remote villages of Odisha to meet traditional craft artisans, weavers, and also to meet tribal women, to understand the craft and to meet the practicing artisans. Since 2006, I have been working with Ikat weavers in Odisha, primarily in the area of contemporary designs, reviving indigenous methods, and creating high-standard textiles. When I started working with weavers were very adamant and they didn't want to switch from tradition to contemporary design. They only wanted to weave sari. Ikat holds a special place from historical roots to the ever-changing designs. As we know, the word Ikat originated from the word Mangikat, that means to resist or bind. In India, we don't have a particular word for Ikat. Every state has a different word. Ikat is called Patola in Gujarat. Ikat is called Pagri Baddu or Chitki in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It is called Bandho in Odisha. Bandhni, Bandhna, Bandho, these are the common words associated with tying of the fabric, which means to stop or act as a barrier. The basic process of Ikat starts with tracing the design on a craft, a bandha artist basically translates the design from the graft to the ikat frame. He joins all the knots together into the form of design, and from bandha artist a weaver takes the lead and he converts those designs, ikat tie-dye threads, into a fabric. He joins all the dotted patterns on the loom and the fabric comes into the reality. Today's illustrated talk on the journey of ikat textiles will briefly talk about the process, technique, the historical roots of ikat, and followed with my conversation with weavers from Odisha. Ikat resist technique can be simply defined as the process of tying and dyeing, blocking certain areas as per the desired color and design. The process may be repeated in different stages. Usually artists use threads, polythene, waste-tied tubes and sometimes bark to use as resist. Nowadays the dye base in India is purely synthetic, but in earlier days weavers, dyers and tie-dye artists used to derive colors from natural dyes, indigo from Indigofera tinctoria, red from Morinda citrifolia and Rubia cordifolia. Cucurma longa gives yellow color in combination with mordants such as alum and myrobalan. Some of the common products which is used in India are saris, lamis, dhotis, and you get ikat in various textures and count, less expensive ikat and also the expensive ikat, which is suitable for different markets. I think the entire process is very magical because you start with a basic graft, a simple knots, tiny knots, and when you join the knots together and then you come with the beautiful ikat textiles, that is the resist ikat textiles from India. Usually plain weave construction is more suitable for ikat textiles. Heirloom textiles suggest that in the Islamic world, ikat velvets were also woven. This silk ikat velvet with gold border is currently in Calico Museum of Textile, Ahmedabad. Patola is considered the most prestigious ikat textile in the world. The earliest evidence related to the production of ikat textile in India is found in the wall paintings of Ajanta from 5th to 7th century. The low garments worn by male and female figures indicate irregular warp ikat with plain stripe that was most enduring and widespread form of ikat, and this type of design scheme reached beyond India to influence early textile in Middle East and Central Asia. Ikat was practiced in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Deccan in earlier days. Literary sources suggest that the origin of ikat in India is from Deccan that travelled to Gujarat. Simpler ikat in southern India and Deccan evolved with pre-existing ikat tradition. The ikat tradition also extended southeastwards to coastal Andhra Pradesh and probably to Odisha. The major geographical ikat producing areas in India: Patan and Rajkot in Gujarat, Pochampally and Chirala in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, Cuttack, Bargarh, Sonpur and Bolangir in Odisha. At present, both single and double ikat is practiced by hand in India. Gujarat. Patola ikat is retained India's most prestigious and beautiful textile within India and outside India. Patola was exported for nearly 500 years. It is the only type of ikat in the world that demands so much of precision in the planning of design that requires repeated tying and tying with meticulous accuracy to align the warp and weft threads. In Patola, the blurring of ikat outline is not acceptable. Weavers use needle to set the threads on loom by hand for perfection. Patola designs were made for ceremonial contexts such as draping over a bride or a bridegroom. It was worn by guests or offered to the bride as a ceremonial gift rather than being worn by her in the wedding. Patola was particularly associated with Simant, a ritual that takes place in the 7th month of pregnancy, in which auspicious pattern of Patola is illustrated. Expectant mother wears the Patola gifted by her husband's family. Patola was considered prestigious by Hindu, Muslim and Jain communities. Patan weavers maintain that their forefathers migrated from Jalna, which is in Deccan. It is possible that ikat travelled during the medieval period from Deccan to Patan, which was a renowned centre for weaving of other types of silk. Double ikat was probably developed in and applied in Patan on silk. Salvi weavers in Jalna in later years also wove patola using pre-dyed yarns. Patola was made for both export and domestic. Patola made for export was very different in texture and weave in comparison to domestic textile. Patola was made for export in different dimension, a banner-like textile, usually loosely woven in coarse silk and sometimes with cotton border. Among the patolas, Taran full bath was often made into ceremonial and dance costume in Java. Chabari bath influenced the local ikat of lesser-known Indonesian island. Indian textile became heirlooms in many villages in Indonesia. Export to Southeast Asia ceased at the outset of World War II. This is an example of best wrapper made from patolo in Indonesia in double ikat. It was made around late 19th or 20th century. Patola with blue grounds was rarely found in India but were exported to Southeast Asia. This was very popular patola design in Indonesia. Popot Kunjai Bhat. This is a silk double ikat with metallic threads at one end, probably made around 19th or 20th century. The pattern of elephant flowers with the parrot is considered highly traditional and valued patola. This design was made with great precision and this has been particularly associated with Brahmin communities of North Gujarat. Dakshini, which means southern, probably made in Deccan or Jalna. It is currently in National Museum, New Delhi. The body has very thin stripes with ikat pallu and it was not very typical of Patan patola. Another example of Pan Bhat Patola, which has a leaf pattern in the entire body of the sari. It has parrot, elephant and a dancing girl in the border of the sari. An example of Vora Gajibat. This type of geometrical design was favored by Ismaili Muslim merchant communities of Voras. These include triangular elements called tumfal, which is also common to patola made for Southeast Asia. Another example of patolu, which has triangular elements in the entire body. This is Ratan Chowk, which has jewel and square design and it was made in Patan. The geometrical and non-figurative patola is related to Vora Gaji pattern of Muslim communities, but it was worn by merchant Hindus of central Gujarat. This patola is loosely woven, as a result of which the pattern appears to be blurred. Example of Fulbari Bath, which has a flower pattern in the entire body, and this design was very much used in Indonesia. Another example of Fulbari Bath, which has a compartmental division, and this form of design was widely used in Indonesia. An example of patolu sari with standing flower in combination of yellow and blue colors. An example of Taran Fool, 3 flowers, that was exported to Indonesia where it was made into ceremonial and dance garment as breast wrapper. An example of Patola silk made in Patan. Shabari Bath. This design was used in Southeast Asia very widely and this design is called basket design. An example of shoulder cloth that was made especially for Southeast Asia. This type of patola was never used in India. An example of patola painting that appears in one of the temple in Cochin in Kerala, probably Dutch. When they traveled from Gujarat to Kerala, they gifted some of the patola to the nobles and eventually somebody must have painted this on the wall of temple. An example of patola fabric in use as a canopy during a wedding ceremony in Sulawesi. Patola fabric in use as a canopy during a wedding ceremony in Sulawesi. The design is full body bath, which has a flower pattern in the background of the patola. This is a ceremonial cloth. The patola of this design with 4 huge elephants was made only for export to Indonesia. Patola with tigers and elephants were popular in Indonesia. These were majestic pieces, were the most prestigious and the rarest. Another example of ceremonial cloth which has tiger and elephants. This is Golu Patolu. This has a plain body and the ikat pattern appears in the pallu and the border. This is one of the examples of low-cost sari and it was favored by Jain community. Coming to southern state Karnataka, under Tipu Sultan, Karnataka experienced greater degree of Muslim influence. Today, the state supplies silk to throughout India. In Karnataka, warp-based ikat was used along with the border in the body of the sari. Here, the warp in the pallu area has been dyed so that pallu appears solid. Another example of warp-based ikat that runs along the border of the sari. Some of the textiles from Bellary, Karnataka and Narayanpet in Andhra Pradesh were exported to Southeast Asia market. An example of check and stripes body in the sari along with ikat border in the warp. Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu was part of Madras Presidency during British period, which includes Chola temple towns of Madurai, Tanjavur, Tiruchirappalli and Kanchipuram. In Tamil Nadu, usually weft ikats are primarily used in saris. This textile was made in Madurai around 19th century, which has weft ikat and also gold thread. The gold brocaded extra weft pattern appears in the pallu, and to substitute the pattern, the similar pattern is created in the body of the sari using ikat rather than the gold threads. In 19th century, ikat was thriving in Tamil Nadu. It was abandoned with the demise of court patronage of Tanjavur, which was a crucial place for mushroom. Southern ikat tradition is ancient, probably one linked with Deccan, and Bandhani was introduced in Madurai by Saurashtra weavers who migrated from Gujarat to Madurai, and it is called Sungri. An example of diagonal grid in ikat dotted pattern in background of the sari, it was made in Madurai in 19th century. Another example of dashes of ikat dotted pattern used in the background of the sari made in Vellore. A beautiful piece of sari from Tanjavur, and it was 8 yards long, worn by Tanjore women in that period for temple rituals. This sari has extra warp pattern and also extra weft pattern. The ikat runs along with the extra warp design in the border. An example of cotton and silk fabric, which was called shushi, and it was used for tailored garments. A simple example of lungi in check pattern with weft ikat. It was worn by common people. It was made in Erode, Tamil Nadu, 20th century. Andhra Pradesh. In villages of Andhra Pradesh as well as further south in Tamil Nadu and west in Maharashtra, fishermen and cowherds wore simple ikat-like pattern textile known as Telia Rumals, or locally as chitki or chitti rumal, as turbans and lungi. Telia Rumal were originally dyed in natural colors from all sesame oil, and sheep dung was used. As this process of sheep dung application was carried out by lower caste people, it was considered impure. So the process was carried out by low caste people and it was woven by the weavers. It is believed that ikat flourished in Andhra Pradesh after 19th century. Telia Rumal were adopted by Muslim women of Hyderabad as dupattas and as saris by Hindu ladies. Telia Rumal was a square handkerchief with ikat pattern in combination with check. It was an important trade item during 19th century. Similar patterns were produced further south in Madras. This Telia sari with gold embroidered decoration was used by Hyderabad Muslim women. An example of Telia Rumal eventually moved into figurative motif that was popular in Middle East market. The origin of pattern shows influence of Gujarati Patola, square design. Telia Rumals were popular turbans in Middle East, East Africa and Southeast Asia. They were called as Asia Rumal or Asia Tandalu. The woveful lines, aeroplanes, clock used in Telia Rumals date back to 1930s. These type of designs were made for Persian Gulf. An example of double ikat from Andhra Pradesh, made in 20th century in Chirala. Mushru textile. The origin of mushru is associated with Muslim society. Muslim men were prohibited from wearing silk, so they developed mushru. Mushru is a warp-free satin weave construction with silk warp and cotton weft. The glossy effect of silk remains on the surface, and cotton comes as the backing of the fabric that technically allows Muslim men to wear mushru. Mushru may or may not include ikat pattern. This is an example of mushroom fabric with metal thread and arrow-headed ikat design that was made in Deccan around 18th century. An example of mushroom ikat skirt with embroidery made in Gujarat. This colored ikat textile is similar to that was made in Turkey. The continuous chevron designs were called khanjari from the word khanjar meaning dagger. Textiles of this design were produced in Tamil Nadu, Varanasi, Aurangabad and Hyderabad. In this, cotton weft satin and warp ikat were used. An example of saddle cloth with ikat mushroom lining, which was made in North India, and this has a velvet body with gold border. Odisha. The eastern state Odisha was created in 1948, mostly out of former central provinces and Madras Presidency. Located on the Bay of Bengal, it has a long history of sea trade used by local, Muslim and European traders. Odisha has a long history of weaving, not only in ikat but also indigenous weaving traditions. Geetagovinda, Khandwa Patto from Cuttack, eastern Odisha, Pasapalli and Vichitrapuri sarees from Sambalpur, western Odisha, are some of the popular Odisha textile across the world. In Odisha, the art of tie and dye flourished with the patronage of local people. People of Odisha take pride in wearing bandha sari. You can witness construction women workers, farmer's wife, and ordinary auto rickshaw fellow also wearing bandha. Odisha is the only state where most of the handloom produce is consumed locally within the state. The major geographical areas of ikat production in Odisha are Cuttack, Bargarh, Sonpur, Bolangir, and Sambalpur. The technique of single and double ikat is practiced in western Odisha by Mahers and in eastern Odisha by Gaudiya and Asani weavers in Nuapatna. Mahers are divided mainly into three subgroups: Adivasi Kulis Meher, Tasar Kosta Mahers, and tie-dye Bhulia Mahers. They worship Vishwakarma god. Bhulia Mahers claim that their ancestor migrated from Rajasthan several generations ago. Gaudiya and Asani weavers are settled in Nuapatna, Cuttack district of Odisha. Some of the surname of weavers from Nuapatna are Kotwal, Behra, Tosh, Pal, Das, Patra and Kundu. Most of the weavers are Vaishnav devotees and some weavers are Buddhist. Bargarh. In western Odisha, simple ikat designs were woven in earlier days. With time, the art of tie and dye evolved in Sambalpur, Barpali, Bolangir and Sonpur with the patronage of local people. The popularity of Odisha textile is named after Sambalpur textile. ikat of Western Odisha is different from Eastern Odisha. Tie-dye artists pay attention to minute detailing. Weavers use short-length warp and 2 sets of saris in pitloom at a time. This is one of the reasons Western Odisha textiles are finer, whether it is curvilinear ikat pattern or square designs. We'll start with Nuapatna in Eastern Odisha. Nuapatna village under Tigiria block of Cuttack district is home to more than 5,000 weavers. Our weavers create the most beautiful textiles from their mud houses. Most of the weavers live in small houses with poor sunlight and limited space. Weavers abode. In Odisha and many parts of India, pitloom with short warp is rolled back to utilize the space when they are not weaving. This is the ikat frame in front of weaver's house in Nuapatna village. On the occasion of Lakshmi Puja, married women of the house decorate her house with rice paste to welcome Goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. This is a weaver's house. This pattern is called Jhoti in Odia language. The Jhoti pattern often appears on Bandha textiles of Odisha. Jhoti pattern often appears on Bandha textiles of Odisha. We'll start with a conversation with Nuapatna weavers.
श्री कण्डुचरण पात्र वीरबरपुर पोस्ट अभिमानपुर जिला कटक बांधकला दीर्घ 50 वर्ष हो श्री जगन्नाथ देव मादला पांजी अनुजाई 1719 ख्रीष्टाब्द यही बांधकला यही आम एरियार नुआपाटना ठारू धरी बड़म्बा पर्यंत विभिन्न ग्राम रही से ग्राम में बांधकला कार्य चली आस जयदेवर रचित जे गीतगोविंद से गीतगोविंदर धीर समीर जमुना तीरे बसती बनमाली ये अनेक श्लोक को नहीं ताको बांधकला जड़ित करा जगन्नाथ देव बलभद्र सुभद्रा रथ यात्रा सब बेले खंडुआ वस्त्र जहाँ कहुए से गीतगोविंद पिंधती माने बांध कार्य विभिन्न जीवजंतु हरिण सिंह बाघ विभिन्न प्रकार फूल ये कि जे प्रकार डिजाइन हेले से बांध काम कर भी आम एरिया अनेक माने टसर काम पाट काम कॉटन काम दीर्घ दिन है कर आसुछु तंत काम एमती एक्सपोर्ट काम जोटा कि विभिन्न एक्सपोर्ट माध्यम काम कर आसी धरतु एक्सपोर्ट कहले से सासा एक्सपोर्ट हो दस्तकार हो एमती अनेक सहित जड़ित आगुरी रही एबे भी कार्य चालू रही विभिन्न प्रकार अनुष्ठान मान 2010 से आम एमएस जो खदी रही से खदी भी नेशनल अवार्ड मिली ये बांध कार्य तंत काम बहुत क्षीण होबार लगे कारीगर माने बांध काम बा सूता काम वस्त्र काम छाड़ी विभिन्न मूलिया मजूरी करने को भी जाऊँगी मोर जो पारंपरिक हिसाब से बापा ठार देखी पाठपढ़ा छाड़ा पर अल्प पाठ पढ़ी छाड़ी तो तेणु पाठपढ़ा पर से बांध कला तंत काम जड़ित रही तंतुणा कार्य केतक असुविधा देखा जहाँफल कि जेहेतु उचित मूल्य जड़े पाइपारूना तापर जेनेरेशन देखा जाऊँगी बाहर जनरल भाव जे लोक भी पसंद करना कार्य कौन ना जदि साधारण कथा कहे कले गोटे पुत्र जदि कन्याटे खोजा जाऊँगी से पचार कि चाकरी करची ना तंत कार्य व्यवसाय करुच्ची तंत बुणुची ना 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 तंत बुणारे मजूरी ना तार भविष्य ना तेणु बर्तमान कौन होना करोना समय दीर्घ मार्च 22 ठारू आमर ये अंचल कोरोनार प्रभाव पड़ा तापर आस्ते आस्ते सटडाउन लॉकडाउन या हवा द्वारा र मेटेरियल ठीक रे आसी पारलानी उत्पादित वस्त्र बिक्री हो पारलानी बुणाकार मान मजूरी पाई पारना अनेक दुर्दिन गति करुच्ची सब समिति माने मध्य से भी चलवा अवस्था नहांती तेणु किसी बुणाकार दादन करने को बॉम्बे पुना ये विभिन्न जगह को भी जाऊँगी सरकार सहायता जहाँ आसूची से विभिन्न बाटर आजकल तो ठीक समय ठीक लोक पाखे भी पहुँची पारना 7-8 मास है तंत कार्य माने बिक्री बटा बंद हो जाए जहाँफल कि बुणाकार मान बहुत दुर्दिन रही आम जहाँ काम करूँ से धरतु भुवनेश्वर से अनेशा हाँ तार जिनस बिक्री न हवा द्वारा से भी कार्य ठीक दे पारना कौन दुकान खोला किंतु दुकान रे लोक ना बिक्री जहाँ किंतु आमर कारीगर मो पाखे 40 वर्ष धरी कार्य कर आसुँच ठीक समय कार्य देवा एवं उचित मजूरी देते भी सुधा चालू रही यार पर धरतु मोर बापा परंपरा कार्य करुले भी करी कि मोर पर जे पिला आसिले से माने आउ ये तंतबुणा कार्य करने को इच्छा प्रकाश करना जेहेतु तांकर उचित मजूरी पाई पारु नाहांती भली अवस्था रे जहाँकि धर मोर निज पाठ पढ़ा पर से दिल्ली ये निफ्टी रे हाँ डिजाइनर पाठ पढ़ी सारा पर से भी चाकरी जाकि बाहर करी लाइफस्टाइल रे करी से एप्रति आग्रह प्रकाश करना जेहेतु ए बहुत परिश्रम किंतु कम मजूरी देखा जाउछि जे ये कार्य कर केते दिन आउ कष्ट स्वीकार करबा ये कला बंची रहा कहले जेकोसी सरकारी प्रोत्साहन कि विभिन्न अनुष्ठान प्रोत्साहन दे जदि कला को बंची रखा जाए हुए तो बंची रही संभावना अच्छी यहाँ ओडिया जो यहाँ गोटे मान
छड़ा जाए मौली सेटा को जो बुला जाए डिजाइन करने जो बुलाइना जोड़ी सब दि जाए से आग स्टार्टिंग आरंभ कलु से आरंभ करके सब शिखीगला जानीगला डिजाइन हो आसला से जो काठी नली यहाँ को सिंपल भाव में करपाइलु एटा कर सारापर से डिजाइन सब धरिलु बाँ पटे तापर जानीगला सब बुणिलु तापरे से स्टार्टिंग आज की 25 वर्ष है काम चलती
आउ एबे जो आपण तंत बुणुचंती निज झियो को पढ़ाउचंती सान पुओ को पढ़ाउचंती आपण को मन रे केमिति आसले ताको पढ़िया कथा
पढ़िया कथा एथि कि जे पाठ न पढ़ी बहुत दुख किछि कर पाइलु तापरे पढ़िया निज एई काम रु तंत बुणी कि निज रोजगार रु भी सुधा ताको सहाय्य करी काम रे निज पिला को पढ़ार क्षमता भी आम ये प्रकार पाए तेणुक निजे जिते कामटा कलु आमर किछिटा आसला स्वाभिमान आसला एक अधिकार भी आसला रोजगार आउ टिके बढ़ेकिना पिला जेहेतु आम कामटा कलु आम पाखर किसी रोजगार बाहरला आम चाहे भी पढ़ाई पाइलु तेणुक से आम कथार भी आम ये भी पिला पढ़ाई पाइलु
ताले आपण संतुष्ट अछंती
संतुष्ट अछि
Thank you.
Significant role in the making of Ikat textiles. Women contribute in the opening of yarn, cleaning of the yarn, spinning, filling of the bobbin, starching the warp and weaving. Along with handloom activities, women manage core activities of the house from cleaning, cooking, washing and taking care of children and senior members of the family.
आपण टिके हमको टिके डिटेल रे बुझांतो कि आपण केमिति नेचुरलाइज सिखिले केमिति आपण भाबुचंदी कि डिजाइन कहीं कि आपण पाए भाबुचंदी आपण डिजाइन ऊपर आपण बहुत इंपोर्टेंस दोचंदी कि कंटेम्परेरी आइडियाज गुड़ा बहुत इंपोर्टेंट माने आपण ऑब्वियसली ट्रेडिशनल देखुचंदी किंतु आपण एटा भी जानिचंदी कि नुवा किछि करिया पई माने जिंस परिस्थिति चेंज करिया पई किछि नुवा दरकार किछि परिवर्तन दरकार परिवर्तन चिंताधारा रे परिवर्तन डिजाइन रे परिवर्तन क्वालिटी रे ता ऊपर टिके कहबे कि आपण केमिति आपण टेक्सटाइल कामटा स्टार्ट करेले एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन एंड कोन आपण को मन रे कोन प्रोत्साहन आसिला
टू परितोळे मो +2 सारी देली तापर मत असुविधा होला कि पाठ पढ़ा मो पाखे पैसा नाला तो जो तंत बुणवा आरंभ है घरे बापा साथ तंत बुणवा आरंभ है से बहुत कष्ट लगे आ फाइनाल जना पड़ा कि मुझे पढ़ी पारि तापर मो पाखे जी पुराना बही खाता था दिने बिक्री करदेवी आ फोपाड़ी देवा उद्देश्य से खोजुली हठात देखिली गोटे जगार दुख भी लगी था चिंता कल कि आउ कौन टी कले बेसी टी मजूरी मिल प्रोजेक्टा बढ़ावाई कि आम टेक्निक यूज कलु आस्ते आस्ते से जो ग्राफ्रे आम पाठ पढ़ुलु से ग्राफ की यूज करके जाला और बमकीर डेभलपमेंट स्टार्ट कलु आउ से जाला बमकीर डेभलपमेंट स्टार्ट कला लोकों पाखे आमर टे शाढ़ीटा बेसी आदृति है लोक मैंने आमको जो प्रशंसा कले हाँ भल शाढ़ी बुणुंट तो तापर आम आ पछक फेरिनु से दिन मो नुआ नुआ कर इच्छा प्रकाश पाइला आस्ते आस्ते टाई डाई नेचुरल डाई अन्य नुआ नुआ यार्न नुआ नुआ स्टाइल बांध अलग अलग स्टाइल नुआ नुआ डिजाइन तैयारी करने की आग्रह प्रकाश पाइला तेबेठु नुआ नुआ कर इच्छा ही रही एवं सुधा भी नुआ करा
We're extremely happy to introduce you to Hemant Kumar Singh. He's an excellent tie-dye artist. He has been practicing since 20 years. Recently on the Handloom Day, that was on August 7, 2020, Hemant Kumar Singh was awarded Vastra Shilpi Samman by Delhi Craft Council. He was extremely happy and he would like to show his award to you. आपण जो अवार्ड पाइले आपण को केमिति लागे?
बहुत खुशी लगिला, आनंद लगिला। बहुत वर्ष पर पाइथिबार बहुत खुशी लगिला। बांध काम शिखिबारे मो आग फास्ट कौन करूँ आग टे गाँव में माने जाकि शिखुली आम शिव भाई जन थे सी टे शिखौले जस्ट सेठू बाहर मुझे माने किसी शिखी नी सेठू अर्जुन भाई पाखक गली आठू गला मु माने किसी जान नी माने काम विषय सेठू भाई आमर अर्जुन भाई आमर कहले कि बोले तू कर जहाँ मुझू काम कर आरंभ कली आपर कला आस्ते आस्ते कहला माने मु कर चली राति 12 गोटे भी कर काम
Here we are meeting Sarat Patra. He has been making beautiful textile for many years. So 3 brothers, Surendra Patra, Sarat Patra, Sahadev Patra and Yashodhara Patra, wife of Sarat Patra, has been working very hard, more than 25 years on Ikat, making exclusive Ikat textile. One of the beautiful craftsmanship of Ikat is here. This is a Kandharpa style of Ikat in natural dyes. And I would like to ask him few questions regarding his journey into the textile.
नमस्कार, मु हूँ जड़े बुणाकार। मो घर हूँ तिगिरिया थाना अंचल नुआपड़ना ग्राम कटक जिला। मु 1993 मसीह जगन्नाथ गीत गोविंद 10 अवतार वालांगी चांदुआरे नेशनल अवार्ड पाई। तापरे मोर काम एमती चली रही। 2015 मसीह बुद्धंकर जातक कथा जो बुद्धंकर जीवनी गोटे वालांगी कर संत कवि अवार्ड पाई। ये जो आमर बांध कला ये हूँ कौलिक वृत्ति आमर ये परंपरा अनुसार चली रही। मो जानिबारे जयदेव जो पूर्वर आमर ये बांध कला आम नुआपड़ना ग्राम होता। तापर आम नुआपड़ना ग्राम ये पीढ़ी अनुसार चली गीत गोविंद खंडुआ पाट जगन्नाथ अर्पण कर अंग वस्त्र लागू हो। गीत गोविंद इमती गोटे काव्य जोटा कि राधाकृष्ण भक्त आ भगवान जमी ये सी भाया आदान प्रदान तारी उपरे गीत गोविंद काव्यटा को मुझे लिखिकी सारी 7 वर्ष लगिला। आ नेचुरल कलर उपरे पूरा गीत गोविंद काव्यटी लिखाई 52 मीटर लंबा 900 लाइन और नेचुरल कलर रे हमारे जो खंडुआ शाढ़ी कह खंडुआ शाढ़ी हूँ शाढ़ी माने नारी नारी रूप को वर्णना रही जोटा कि खंडुआ पाट से आमर पाद को वर्णना करा पद्म फूल देकी मुख को वर्णना करा सूर्यमुखी फूल देकी जोटा गजगमनी चाली से चालीटा को आमर से हाथीर गोटे चित्र दि जाए सिंह कटी से सिंहर गोटे चित्र दि जाए कोकिल कंठी जोटा कोइलीर स्वर से कोइलीर गोटे चित्र दि जाए दिहरे आमर मृग नयनी मीन नयनी मृग मिरिगर गोटे चित्र दि जाए एमती सब विभिन्न प्रकार वर्णना रही जोटा कि नृसिंह रूप होते सिंह चित्र दि जाऊँगी विभिन्न प्रकार भक्त भगवान जो संपर्क से अनुसार आमर शाढ़ीर वर्णना रही खंडुआ पाट जोटा गीत गोविंद खंडुआ पाट सेटा आमर कौन हो जगन्नाथ पाखे जो पार्श्व देवता मैंने अच्छा जगन्नाथ बलभद्र सुभद्रा ता साथी श्रीदेवी भूदेवी एमती सब जो पार्श्व देवता अच्छा समस्त की लागू करा विभिन्न पार्ट माने खंड खंड करके श्लोकर जो 2 लाइन 4 लाइन एमती जी दरकार से अनुसार जो खंड खंड करके करा भी खंडुआ पाट खंडुआ पाटर विभिन्न प्रकार वर्णना अच्छी आम ए जो शाढ़ी काम करुचु आम जो अनुसार बापा कम शिखी से अनुसार धरतु आमर विभिन्न काव्य कविता रही जमी उपेन्द्र भंज आमर भीम भई कालिदासंकर भी गोटे काम आरंभ हम जोटा मेघदूत काव्य एमती सब विभिन्न काव्य कविता को लेकिन कम चल जोटा कि से काव्य माध्यम रहा साथ आमर नारीर रूप वर्णना रही कि आमर प्राकृतिक वर्णना रही प्रकृतिर ये नहीं से अनुसार शाढ़ीटा को जमी आम या जोटा कि सेटा पिंधा उपयोगी हम लोक मैंने भी ग्रहण करेंगे से अनुसार विभिन्न चित्र को लेकिन आम करुचु लता लतार चित्र दि जाऊँगी जोटा कि डाली आमर विभिन्न प्रकार फूल डाली ये सब दि जाऊँगी प्राकृतिक ये को लेकिन सब कथा आमर शाढ़ी माने प्राकृतिक ये को चित्र जमी प्रकृति आसूची आमर डिजाइन धरतु तारावली आकाश तारा माने जमी पुंजी पुंजी रही से अनुसार नक्षत्र भली शाढ़ी ये अनुसार आम सब प्रकृति की नहीं डिजाइन करा आम एमती मन इच्छा गोटे डिजाइन करदेले सेटा खंडुआ पाटर वर्णना नुह से आम प्रकृतिर ये को लेकिन प्राकृतिक चित्र और प्राकृतिक रंग आम व्यवहार करोटा मुझे 50 प्रकार रंग भी माने प्रकृति बाहर कर विभिन्न प्रकार परीक्षा निरीक्षा कर जोटा कि धरतु आमर नारी वर्णना पर भी से दिहर आसूची काव्य अनुसार एवं कम चालू रही सब आम विभिन्न काव्य कविता केमी आम कपड़ा व्यवहार करवा से अनुसार चली आमर ओडिशार कवि सम्राट उपेन्द्र भंज तांकर वैदेश विलास काव्य गोटे शाढ़ी कर लेखा शाढ़ीटी होपर आमर कामसूत्र जोटा आमर कोकशास्त्र से गोटे शाढ़ी होमर अंबिका विलास जोटा कि कवि होती बलभद्र भंज देवंकर अंबिका विलास काव्य दिहर से बाहागर स्टोरी नहीं कि से गोटे शाढ़ी होती विभिन्न सब प्रकार शाढ़ी आम बनाऊँ
आप काव्य को चित्र रे आनी कि जो प्रकाश करूचंती से तो आमे कोठी ओडिसा रे पाइबु न आमे आपण पाखरे ही पाइबु
करबा द्वारा मते तो बहुत आनंद लागुची
आज्ञा
ये होची कोन कि हमर जेहेतु गोटे पारंपरिक कला एवं कौलिक वृत्ति आमे कौलिक माने जीवन यापन सेथरे भरण पोषण करूचु।
We saw the journey of Indian Ikat textile from its historical roots to present contemporary design. The popularity of Indian Ikat textiles traveled to Central Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and in fact to Europe. At present, you saw the ikat of each state from Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Odisha, and you saw how ikat from each state has its own characteristic. My ethnographic study is Odisha. Odisha shares a long maritime trade with Indonesia. Based on the maritime trade between Odisha and Southeast Asia, trade to Java, Sumatra, and Bali, textiles of Telangana and folklores of Odisha and Java show several similarities. I had visited Bali and Java in 2011 to study Ikat textile and also look at the similarity between Odisha and Indonesia. And it was really fascinating to meet the weavers and to see reflection of Odisha and Indonesia. Recently, during the lockdown, as a result of pandemic in last 6 months, more than 100,000 weavers were affected. The supply chain was disrupted. Weavers did not have threads to weave. Looms became idle. Weavers had nothing in hand to run their family. The situation became worse and worse. Material remained unsold for many months. Even after the lockdown, the situation hasn't improved. Local cooperatives, self-help groups, society, they still have unsold amount of stock lying with them. Currently, there is a lot of crisis in the market. Weavers do not have much order. Weavers are looking for commission orders, looking for collaboration in order to sustain their legacy, in order to sustain their family. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I would like to thank Dr. Yeti and Center for Culture and Development Netherlands and the entire team of Center for Culture and Development for giving me the opportunity to talk on Ikat Textiles of India. Thank you.
Your main responsibilities as a social designer?
I think as a social designer, I need to reckon with the fact that there's a social question, and it's often related to production, and there's a market, and production and market need to be linked to be able to have impact. And as a social designer, I think I am responsible to make that link between production and market.
Okay, tell us more about your work with craftspeople in India and how did you become interested in Indian textiles?
Yeah, of course, as a textile designer, I was already interested in Indian textiles because it's, I think, maybe the country with the biggest textile tradition. And I met an Indian woman in Maastricht, where I was working at the time. And she invited me to come over to India. And actually, I thought, I'm going to do it. Why not? So it was more like an adventure. And the people I met over there, they introduced me to their network. So I visited quite some craft groups and I selected a few to start working with. So my intention was to translate their tradition, their textile tradition, through contemporary design and open up their work to new markets. So how I work is that I travel to India to visit the craft group. I study their tradition and I explore what materials do they have, what equipment do they have, how are they used to work, and what can I possibly innovate. And then with that information, I take it all back to the Netherlands, and here I start designing around the information I gathered in India. And then I send my designs and they work on it, and then I receive some prototypes. Sometimes I go back to work with the craftspeople again on optimizing the product. And sometimes when I'm a bit used to the group already, I work from here. And so by the time I hold the product in my hands, I have already a few weeks and months of development time together with the craftspeople.
Okay, sounds interesting. Did you encounter any challenges throughout your work in India?
Yes, many challenges. Of course, there's the cultural difference, there's the difference in language. I think cultural difference is the biggest one, because of course in the work and in the daily life of people, culture is so ingrained and so, yeah, it defines
nearly everything, how people make their choices, what it defines their ambition, it defines what they think they need in life. So as a social designer, you need to have like an understanding of what those people need, what they want. It's not about what I want to give to them, it's what they need. And then it's up to me to work around that and to create the correct atmosphere to provide that. That was a challenge to understand the different cultures. It was also a challenge in practical work to get the quality optimized for international markets, because domestic markets in India, they have different requirements when it comes to quality, but also to optimization of the production chain. Often orders in India are one-offs, and to go abroad, we need to be able to give them repeat orders. So once they've made something in one color, 2 years later, I have to be able to order the exact same color. That needs organization. So that is also setting that up. Yeah, many challenges actually.
Do you have commercial partners, and do you work together on market opportunities?
Yes, I think it's very important to have commercial partners. When I started, actually, I had no partners. So I was just exploring the potential of this kind of work, like the crafts translated to contemporary design, handmade goods for international markets. So I took some years to explore that. And 5 years ago, 2014-15, I met my commercial partners, which I still work with today. And now, after 10 years of working with India and 5 years of working with commercial partners, I have found like a structure that suits me, suits my partners, and also the Indian producers and the commercial network, which is globally. So we both, the commercial partner and myself, we both constantly keep an eye on the market and market opportunities, and same for the production network.
Mm-hmm. How do you approach Indian textiles so successful?
I think that what worked well in India is that I approach their tradition with a lot of respect, and at the same time I'm not afraid to innovate. So I really explore what their tradition is, the skills that they have, the materials they have available, the equipment they have available, and from there I design something new. So I translate by design, and then I challenge them to, within the boundaries of what I know is possible, I challenge them to innovate their technique. And I think there, in the combination of cherishing the tradition and embracing the innovation, I think there is the success.
How did you integrate Indian textile heritage into the international market?
Indian textile. Well, I think the Indian textile heritage is huge. There's so much to work with. And as a designer, I think it's your responsibility to know the markets you want to introduce those textiles to. I'm not sure if I answered the question correctly.
No, it's not. So what accomplishments do you feel set you apart in this textile industry?
I think what sets me apart in the industry is that I reckon with all three pillars that, from my opinion, are needed to make this work successful. And these are production, design, and marketing. So you cannot be successful if you only work on production and design. You can also not be successful if you only work on design and marketing. You need three pillars: production, design, marketing, and all three pillars need to be strong and need to have the right people in the right place. and all three pillars need to be worked on. And when those are balanced, then I think you have a really strong product with good market opportunities that can be made in a fair way by the artisans.
Okay, so the core of our project is the intricate technique of Indian Ikat. Did you hear about it during your work with Indian artisans?
Yes, I'm familiar with the technique, and I visited also quite some groups that work with Ikat. I think it's a beautiful technique with beautiful opportunities for these contemporary markets that we are now talking about. If a designer wants to work with Ikat, I would advise to really go into the technique and study what's so unique about the technique, and use that specific something for Ikat, make that the core of your design, work around that. Always work from the uniqueness of the technique, of that specific tradition. I think there are great opportunities for Ikat in worldwide markets.
And how can traditions and innovation bring the Dutch design and Indian textile heritage together? And could you apply here shape-shifting heritage?
Yes, I think what the biggest asset of India is the textile heritage. Many people have beautifully skilled hands to make textiles, and in India, when you walk in India, so many women are still wearing saris. So Indian people really respect their traditions. Their daily life is full with tradition. In the Netherlands, it's far less, but what we are strong with is conceptual design. So we tend to zoom out. We don't work with our hands on the details. We tend to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And I think in India, when they're very much into the detail and the beautiful skill of handwork, in the Netherlands, we are zoomed out and we can look at the bigger picture. What is the market? Who are the buyers? You know, and I think these two worlds, when they blend, something special can happen.
And what advice would you give our organization to enhance future possibilities for Indian Ikat?
I think, again, the three pillars are crucial. I think it's great to inspire designers to work with Indian craftspeople or craftspeople wherever in the world. And I think at the same time, when you emphasize on craft, on production, on handwork, you also need to emphasize on marketing and sales, because else you can develop beautiful things and they will never find their way into the market. And that's a pity. So again, I come back to the three pillars: production, design, and marketing, and to find a beautiful balance between those three to make sure that the beautiful products you create can also be sold, because then you come to a sustainable something.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I'm Geetagovinda, supervisor from CCD-NL. I hope you all enjoy and are inspired by our webinar today about Indian Ikat. Today's event aims to connect and build a strong relationship between Indian Ikat artisans with Dutch designer through the knowledge sharing, and we hope it will be able to preserve the traditional Ikat weaving in India and also supporting and encouraging Indian Ikat artisans in keeping their traditional heritage. CCD-NL will continue this webinar series in the future, and the webinar session will be broken down into a smaller events such as lecturers, Zoom lessons that held a direct and close communications, discussions between Indian artisans and Dutch designer in continuous program of sharing knowledge. Through the CCD-NL fundraising campaign, we also invite you to give your donation that will be used in supporting artisans in buying yarns and their process in creating and preserving ikat in India, and also for a better income. So please visit our social media and an online platform for further information about our activities and the funding possibilities available in give.com. On behalf of CCD-NL, I would like to thank everyone who participated today in this webinar. Special thanks to our speakers, Ms. Pankaja Sethi, who led the first webinar of Indian Ikat. Thank you very much for a group of artisans, Nua Pata Odisha from India. Thank you very much to our CCD-NL Director, Ms. Yeti Vandemadahening, for this event. Thank you very much for Ms. Jolijn Fiddelaers, who already shared her experience and engagement with textile heritage in India. Thank you very much to all CCD-NL team, our volunteers, our interns for all the hard work and support in preparing this event. We will continue this event with a Zoom meeting now, so please join. We will have a discussion with our speakers, questions and answers, and networking. The Zoom link is available in our social media and in this chat. So thank you once again and see you soon.